Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast, episode 6. Today is Saturday, July 27th, 2013, and my name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade. I'd like to welcome you guys back. I'm sorry about the ridiculous delay. So what ended up happening was the graphics card on my computer died, or my laptop. I've had this laptop since July of 2005. And when my husband came out to visit, we ripped it all apart and we took out, the fans were completely stuffed with dust and fluff. So I'm wondering what ended up happening was that my graphics card overheated, reflowed some solder joints, and then it just was intermittently working. When we put the laptop in the freezer, we got a good hour. When it finally went on the fritz, like I could turn it on and I would have about 5 minutes. So I tried to fix the graphics card I had, failed. Don't want to talk about that. So I went on eBay and I ordered a new one. It was supposed to arrive Wednesday, and it might have arrived Wednesday. But they didn't, the mail person didn't leave a note to say it was inside, so I finally today managed to talk to the property manager and get my box. So it was maybe 15 minutes to screw everything back in again, and it's back. Yay! I was tempted to try to figure out how to record on the notepad, but it was just a pain. I've come to realize back in April I was feeling really serious iPad lust. That's over now. I like mouses. I like being able to click and copy paste and all that other fun stuff. Be able to flip back and forth between reading posts on Ravelry and watching podcasts. Oh my gosh. The notepad can only do one thing at a time. Maybe play music and be on the internet, but it's a bad multitasker. And I am glad that I found this out without spending $400 to buy an iPad. So, win-win situation all around. Let's see. To head into the knitting content of the show, I am currently wearing the Reknit Alpaca Summer Bloom Shawl. So the pattern is Summer Blooms by Susanna Icy. I knit it on my Xiaogu interchangeable set with size 7 needles. I cast on using size 11, which tends to be the normal MO for Susanna Icy patterns. I showed this in episode 5 as the completely blocked out but with a large chunk of gray yarn. So this guy right here, artfully draped, is actually really a shawlette, and it is the perfect size. It blocked out to be a little bit less than 5 feet. I did 9 repeats instead of 13. I ended up doing a longer border region than what was called in the pattern. Basically I was just trying to use up every last bit of the yarn. Actually, I can get up quickly. This is how much I have left over. It is 2.4 grams, so whatever. So from what I cut off from extra, because so to cast on, what I did was I had 2 strands of yarn, and then I just did a normal long tail cast on using the center and the outside of the ball, because it's a pain when you have to cast on, I don't know, I think the initial one was 416 stitches. This one ended up being less. The other thing that I did was I did a 3-stitch I-cord bind off. And so the thing about this type of shawl is you want the top of the shawl to be as firm and non-stretchy as possible, and the I-cord gives a really structured edge so you can block the living daylights out of it. And this time I blocked it closer to what the pattern had called for. So when I had done it before, I had pulled out the center here, but on the pattern they had called for pulling out 2 little feet. And I think I was supposed to block each one of these motifs, or let me I think I was supposed to block out the meshy points as well, but I think it ends up working out fine. I got everything nice and opened up. It didn't overflow my blocking my blocking pads. I actually record on top of my blocking pads, so there's always a little open space for me to set up my camp chair. So I used pretty much the entire 100 grams. Actually, I'll just keep wearing it. Well, I haven't turned on the AC, so I'll take it off. But I'm glad I fixed it, because it is exactly what I intended it to be now, instead of being a little. The gray yarn was a suboptimal fix, and considering that my grandma's a pretty picky and particular person, I think this is exactly what she wanted to have. So exciting, off the needles. It turned out it was, so this ended up getting me a good way, or a good part of the way there for my remaining yards for Stash Dash, which is being hosted by the Knit Girls. It ends really soon. Really soon. I'm not sure. So this ended up getting me a good portion of the way there. I don't know, can you guys? I don't know. The camera really doesn't do the beads justice. Like, it doesn't seem to catch the fact that they match, but they contrast a little bit. So this ended up getting me, if I had used the entire skein, that would have gotten me to the 400 yards I needed in order to make 4K. I ended up throwing in a picture of some of my practice, or whatever, my plying practice yarn instead. So, I also finished another thing, and this was actually finished before the shawl, but it was easier to show that. So, I finished my Jamaican Me Crazy socks. So this is Jamaican Me Crazy by Adrienne Fung. She is, she ends up hanging out in one of the groups I hang out with. So when she released the pattern a few years ago, I bought it because it was a discount. Yay! It was interesting to knit my first pay-for pattern. Well, I've knit patterns from books before, but a standalone sock pattern seems to have a lot more information included with it in order to get everything right. So this has a mini eye of partridge heel flap, or a mini heel of partridge heel flap, and a traditional short row heel. The yarn is from String Theory Colorworks. The base is Continuum. It is a 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon blend. It is scrumptious. And the colorway is Omega Century. So I had been noticing with, what was it, when I made my 2 pairs of monkey socks, one going to Hawaii and one going back from Hawaii, that I think I haven't been casting on enough stitches for the size of my leg. It's not like I have really massive legs or anything, it's just I think I had been having too much negative ease. So I decided with this sock to do 72 stitches instead of 64. And I'm really digging the fit of this. So, I don't know, like, it seems sort of crowded to be like, oh, your legs are big legs or something like that. I don't know. But, so let's get a close-up shot of the, oh man, you can't even tell. So no holes on the heel. It's a traditional short row heel, and I think the short answer is that with practice you get better. It was probably a while ago. There was a pattern that I was trying to do that called for a short row toe. That was just god awful. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. such great big gaping holes. But with this guy, I managed to do a pretty good job. I actually knit the heel while I was recording a podcast with Jody, which I haven't put on the blog. It covers a lot of ground that has been covered before, so you won't be missing anything if you don't end up seeing it. But if you want to check out Jody as well, she is a lot of fun, and she's into sewing as well. But back to the socks. Maybe it's a little bit harder to see the pattern because there is a decent amount of black yarn, but I'm happy with how it turned out. I haven't worn these out yet because I wanted to be able to record and show them while they're all nice and new and shiny and whatever else. But yeah, so happy with these socks. They're done. Like I need another pair of socks. and this was a part of the Show Your Stripes Cal, which I'm running in Sock Knitters. We are the second largest sock knitting group on Ravelry and the friendliest. I know, I just love it. It is truly a great place. And speaking about sock knitters, I'm actually knitting a design from one of the members in our group. So on to works in progress. This is the Ashton Windows sock by Karen Martin Kepner. There's definitely a Kepner in there. So Karen is quite hilarious, and she actually designed this pattern in memory of one of her friends. So this is incarnation number 3 of the sock. I think the only reason why this is incarnation number 3 is because I'm really fickle. The yarn is Vesper in the Sweetwater colorway, which is so bright and ridiculously happy. Like when I showed this on the blog, like it was so off, and people were still complimenting on the colorway. So this is like Hunter's orange and spring green and like a light, almost tealy blue. I probably should have saved them for some desolate winter month, but I'm knitting them now. So I've done a couple modifications. First off, the pattern is toe up. These are definitely top down, but that's no big deal. The first time I tried to do the hourglass rib cuff, and with my, so these are size 0 Hiya-Hiyas, and I just wasn't digging it. It was making the knitting really tedious. So I ripped back. Then, on the next day, after I had, completely ripped out the cuff, I had replaced it with 2x1 ribbing, and went down, and I was, I'd probably cast on more stitches as well, so I'd cast on 78 stitches instead of 72, and I was going along, and I had gotten a pattern repeat into the cuff, and I sat down and I pulled out my ruler and I measured gauge, and it was too big. So I felt stupid and I ripped it out again. So I was getting gauge that was coming in somewhere between 9 to 9.5. I'm knitting these on zeros because since it is 100% merino yarn, I really want these to last. I've knit with her yarn before, and I adore the colors. But at the end of the day, socks with nylon age much slower and wear much better. So I know my original pair of Vesper socks are looking a little bit older than whatever their nylon cohorts. So I was casting on 78 stitches because I knew that 72 stitches with ones worked really well for my last pair of socks. So if I wanted to have 10% negative ease, I needed 72 stitches with the gauge I was getting. So I cast on 72 stitches, multiple of 6, or actually multiple of 12. Since the little lace and cable detail, man, I don't know how well this is gonna show up. I am only a quarter of the way through the repeat at this point. Like last night, I didn't really feel like knitting on these. So it has a little 2x1 cable, and then it has this little mesh that switches which side of the cable it's on. And I'm not sure what I'm definitely going to do one chart repeat, and I might end up taking away cable or taking away the lace motif and then keeping the cables zigzagging down the leg of the sock. We'll see how it goes. I modified the pattern because you're supposed to just have one repeat of the chart, which was charming and wonderful, but I sort of wanted it to be more complicated, so I made it more complicated. More is more. So these are coming along. They're my carry around knitting. So the next time I need to spend all day in the lab taking data, these are gonna get a lot of progress. Like at this point, I should have like a heel, but if I hadn't been so fickle and couldn't figure out what it is that I wanted these socks to be exactly. So moving along. So this is the ball of yarn. I don't think that last time when I showed it, it had really shown it off. So I still have a pretty decent chunk wrapped around this from when I ripped it out. So I haven't recovered yet. And then the next thing was last night I didn't feel like knitting on the socks. So what I did instead was I cast on something new. So really, those socks were the only thing that I was knitting on. Like after having the even star on the needles for so long, it was so strange to be like, socks are the only thing on the needles. So I cast on Daybreak. I had been intending to knit Daybreak for quite some time. So this is where I am right now. And I'm modifying this pattern too. So Daybreak is by Stephen West. I am knitting it out of the Shopple wool lace ball in the rainbow colorway. Rainbow. I haven't incorporated the rainbow yet. And then I'm also knitting it out of Malabrigo lace in the azure colorway. I think that's how you say azure. Whatever. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. So, and the idea is that with these colors combined, I will have a bright blue sky with rainbow in it. It just appeals to me. So the big difference is this pattern calls for fingering yarn, and I am using lace. So it calls for, I don't even know what size needles, maybe like size 4 or something like that. I'm knitting this on 2 using my Xiaogu interchangeables. And the super duper long cord. I started off on my double points, and then once it was starting to crowd the double points, then I put it on here. So what have I done different? I'm minimizing the number of make one lefts and make one rights I'm doing on it, because I think they end up showing through quite a bit. I added, instead of having a 2-stitch garter border, I have a 3-stitch garter border. Instead of doing make ones along the garter border, I'm just doing yarn over increases. And really, you can't even see that I'm doing yarn overs there. It'll just make it easier to block out. It is pretty firm. So one of the problems with the pattern is a concern that you can't stretch the border out much. So I think it'll probably be okay. And then on the center increases, what I'm doing is I'm doing the 3 into 1 increases. So it ends up leaving a little bit of a mark. I don't even know if you guys can really see what's going on there. But, so, and I just find that to be an easier increase to make than other types of increases. And then I just have to, every couple rows, I need to move my marker back to the center stitch, which in the grand scheme of things isn't too bad. But I am going to have to change this pattern some more. I need to sit down and look at the pattern some more and figure out how I'm going to make it big enough, since I'm using smaller needles and I'm using smaller yarn. Most people, it seems like the mod is just to keep on adding stripy rows to it, which it is definitely a valid thing. Like, I think I just want to make this solid section a bit bigger or something closer to the size that it was expected and the multiple of whatever the little pattern thing is, and maybe add 2 or 4 repeats to the pattern, because I have a ton of yarn. Like, so someone had knit, looking through the Ravelry project, someone had knit a version of this using the Malabrigo lace and had used less than 100 grams. And I have 300 grams. So I have 200 grams, I have 100 grams of this blue, and I have 200 grams of this rainbow. So it might turn out that I just knit more rainbow things in the future. And this was actually a gift from my mother-in-law, so this was a Christmas gift a few years ago. So I'm really glad I'm finally using it, because it's just so freaking happy. And the Malabrigo is actually one of one of my rare local yarn shop purchases. So one of the women in my knitting group was working in the store that day, and she convinced me that the Malabrigo lace would be wonderful. Like, I don't even know why I was in the store, but I walked out with Malabrigo lace. Oh, you know what was that? It was Summer Olympics. So I was going to the yarn store to buy needles so that I could knit 2 socks at the same time, or I needed a pair of zero. I needed a pair of zero circular needles in order to knit a pair of socks. And Peggy, the enabler that she is, convinced me to get 2 50-gram skeins of the Malabrigo lace. And the knitting of this, like, my hands are really, I don't know what's up with my hands. They're just, like, catching on all of the things. But knitting with the Malabrigo is like petting kittens all day long. Oh my gosh. They're both singles. So this one is 75-25, and I haven't had a chance to knit with you. Or rather, I did start knitting with it, and this is the little garter tab cast on. And then I had changed my mind and actually wanted the blue as the solid color instead of the rainbow. But they're both singles, and it is ridiculous how soft they are. Oh my gosh. I am really digging the softness and the hand feel that I get from these yarns. I don't know if it's enough that it's going to convince me to spin some singles. Maybe. We'll see. No big deal. So this is coming along. I cast this on last night. I am still in the increase section. I didn't end up counting to see how much farther I need to go to still be in the pattern, but there's still quite a bit of shawl that needs to happen, or there's quite a bit of shawl knitting that still needs to happen in order to get this there. So I'm super duper excited that now that I finally have the even start off the needles, my shawl blockage is over. So finish the summer bloom, cast on Daybreak. Probably my next shawl is going to be Walk on the Moon. And yeah, exciting. Because maybe the big thing there is that I don't have too many shawls like I have too many socks. And since I really want to work with fine yarn and fine needles, that is the way to go. is that I need to be knitting shawls instead of knitting socks. So there we go. Daybreak. Wonderful. Happy rainbow. So since I've talked to you guys last, Tour de Fleece has ended, and so I did manage to finish my first, the first braid of my Gnomespun. I ended up getting it all tied up before my husband came to visit. And then, so this is, oh, bother. I need to go through with my Nitty Naughty and recount the yardage because it shrunk a decent amount when I washed it. It shrunk and it plumped and whatever else. But this is my Gnomespun Yarns Shetland top in the Sapphire Surprise colorway. It is based on the reps per inch, which now I'm starting to become a believer in the whole reps per inch idea. It is somewhere, let's say, DK worsted. It is about 239 yards, but probably less because it shrunk. And it is a 3-ply. So bring it into the camera. Oh wait, wrong way. So I am adoring this and how you have, like, there are sections where it was more white and sections where it was, so you have darker sections and lighter sections, but for the most part, they're just, what is it? Where's a good example? Here's a good example. So while I was playing this, it was places just where, wrong way, sorry. There were just places where you would get you would get shades of white and shades of blue and shades of the in-between the two. Maybe I was a little bit disappointed because as I was spinning it, there were places where the white and blue would twist together, and you really can't see that on the 3-ply. It's just hidden at this point, or can't really tell what it is anymore. What is it? I was hoping that it was going to be a sport weight, or something like that. But that's why I ended up getting 2 braids so that I would have enough to do something big, like a shawl. Maybe this will be my next shawl instead of the other thing. So totally my colors. Not much in the way of problems and stuff like that. It's just a matter now of getting the other half spun up, which I thought was going to be actually my Tour de Fleece project, but whatever. Getting the other 4 ounces spun up and set up and ready to go. And now that there isn't as much motivation to spin every night as there was during Tour de Fleece, I haven't been spinning every day like I had been earlier, sort of training, I don't even know. But really pleased with this game. It's maybe not the softest thing ever known to man. I'm really happy with how it ended up coming plied. When I was playing with the wheel, I was in danger of over applying, and the yarn ended up taking a softness hit because I was a bit uncontrolled in that regard. But with the spindle, I really have it down on the spindle. And this is how much I have left over. It is about 5 grams left over. So this is like 3.75 ounces, which is a little bit more than 100 grams, I believe. Like 3.5 ounces is 100 grams and 4 ounces is the normal put up for braids of fiber. So this is how much I've left of my little center pull ball. I had 3 center pull balls. I ran out of 1 first, and so then I started to incorporate another I had taken the end of one of my other center pole balls and then continued to 3-ply. But when I had run out of the second, and when I run out of the second ball of yarn, this was how much was left over. So it was a good deal more fine than the other guys. I think probably the story was that the first ball that ran out was my first third, and that I wasn't drafting as well and drafting as fine as what I was before. So that is that. I'm planning on incorporating this into the seconds game. So whenever I run out of, so that at the point where I run out of one of my thirds, then I can chunk this one in and then continue happily plying. And just because like it should be the same anyways, and this will probably be closer to how I'm spinning now anyways. I have made some progress on it. So I had started this when my spindle was accidentally in Michigan. So this is where I stand right now, and I think I'm trying to spin it the same. This is obviously a different spindle, but it's coming together. So this is my fancy pants, whatever. My fancy pants made by a woodworker spindle instead of mass-produced spindle, and I don't have that much left to go. So, couple more feet. I could probably. So that's the problem with podcasting is you start making promises and you have no clue if you'll be able to keep them. So it doesn't look like there's that much left, and then I'll be able to wind it off and then start on the what is it? So start on the next part of the fiber. And things are going well. It's just I need to just set aside the time and do it. Now that my laptop's fixed, I can like put in like a movie or something on Hulu. It turns out that notepads are mobile devices, and so places like Hulu charge in order for you to view the content. So that meant like I couldn't like set up a movie and watch it, which is a good way of whatever. And the Hulu movies are generally so atrocious that it's good background noise for spinning. Or podcasts as well. Though sometimes I want to pay a little bit closer attention to podcasts then. Because when you're spinning, I find I need to look. I need to look at the drafting zone and figure out if I'm drafting appropriately. I need to look to see, to make sure my spindle is still spinning. And I don't need to look as closely as when I'm knitting. I don't need to look as closely. So, I just don't need to look as closely when I'm knitting. So when I'm spinning, it takes more of my focus than when I'm knitting. And I don't know if that's the case just because I'm newer or if it's some other sort of thing. So I think that is the show this week. Unless, or what is it? Well, it's not quite the show. So last weekend my husband came to visit me in Albuquerque, and we did like 3 things, maybe 4 while he was around. So we were incredibly lazy and slept in ridiculously, and like it was. So we ended up eating a lot of pizza and, well, homemade pizza, and just chilling out and enjoying being around each other and that sort of thing. But the 4 things that we did was, I picked him up from the airport late Thursday. His flight ended up getting delayed, so it was 20 minutes later, which was already pretty late. So Friday, we sort of hung out around the house. And then in the evening, we drove up to Santa Fe and we went to one of the restaurants downtown and had dinner, and then we went to the opera. And we went to see The Grand Duchess of Gerolstein, which is a comedy. And so the cool thing about the Santa Fe Opera is, so they have a stage, but and they have like a cover, so everyone stays dry, but the sides are open and the back is open. So you can see the desert all around you because it's just open air. We ended up sitting in the balcony, and the tickets were way cheaper, and I don't feel as if I lost anything by getting by doing that. I ended up switching places with my husband because there was a guy sitting in front of me, so it was sort of hard to see around his head. But once we fixed that, it was awesome. Yeah, so that was good fun. And as we were driving back, apparently Albuquerque flooded while we were gone. Like there was there's like a aqueduct sort of, no, it's not even an aqueduct, spillway that goes through the middle of the highway that goes east-west through town, and it overflowed because of the magnitude of the rainstorm that went through. So when I got back to work, they were showing pictures of how, like, rushing water going through the middle of the freeway. I was like, gosh. But as we were driving back, there was this awesome, like, thunder and lightning and, like, a drizzly sort of rain. Like, in New Mexico, they call it rain. But, like, if you're from anywhere that normally gets rain, it was just sort of a light drizzle. Then on Saturday, we ended up going to the zoo and the aquarium. And I wanted to take him out to this really great burger restaurant that I had found, but they were having a street festival, so we couldn't get within striking distance. And because my husband is, he just takes altitude really badly, so I had made sure to have things available to do all these really active, outdoorsy sorts of things, and he just wanted to sleep. He was not up for doing that sort of thing. So that was interesting. It has been a really, really long time since I've been to a zoo, so it was strange. I don't know. But entertaining. So the zoo is in the greener part of Albuquerque that's near the river, so there's actually like trees and it's a bit prettier there, so that was good. And then on Sunday, the day that I left, we ended up getting out and then going to the rock climbing gym, and then he took a shower and then I brought him to the airport. I was hoping that one of my friends would be able to meet us there, but I didn't give him enough notice to show up, so it was just whatever. My husband and I climbing. So he went through and I think tried every single hard bouldering problem in the gym, and only one of them defeated him in the end. But he's just so ridiculously strong. It's crazy. So he had a good time at the gym. So I'm hoping, in my plan to convince him that Albuquerque is an okay place to live, an acceptable place to live, that hopefully that helped push him in that direction, maybe a little bit. Let's see, anything else? So I started a new project. I pretty much have 2 new projects, so the horizon is not looking too crazy. And I'm still working on that spinning project, so such is life. I'll have to figure out what to call this episode. I just don't even have any clue. But yeah, such is life. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I should be recording next week. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't record next week. Maybe. Let's see. I might end up not recording next week because I'm heading towards my PhD qualifying exams. Yeah, boo. So I have to fly back to Indiana and take those. And that might be next week, because today's the 27th. Let's see. 28th, 29th, 30. July's the 31st month. Or 31st, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Oh, it's looking like I will be recording next week. Whoops, sorry. It'll be a wonderful study break. I've also been studying today. I'm doing electromagnetics, and I'm doing microelectronics or solid state, whatever. So it's just a case of refreshing myself on how to solve those types of problems and remembering the equations and that sort of thing, which, since I took EMAG last spring, shouldn't be a big deal. I already know how to solve those problems, and or at least solve enough of them to get credit. So yeah, so I'll be recording next week. Hopefully, it might be on a Friday instead of a Saturday, but whatever ends up seeming to fit in my schedule. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week. So take care, guys. Bye bye.